તાજા સમાચાર તમારી ભાષામાં મેળવવા માટે ડાઉનલોડ કરો ગુજરાતી મિડ ડેની એપ.
To make sure the border was peaceful, you had a series of agreements. Despite these very explicit, we saw that the Chinese, we were all in the middle of COVID at that time, if you remember, moved large number of forces in violation of these agreements. The main issue right now is the patrolling. How do we, both of us, I would say, patrol up to the line of actual control.
India has obviously a very, very acute border problem with China. I have been reading and hearing pretty encouraging things. You yourself said recently something to the effect of you assessed progress in disengagement at the sort of 75% mark. Your colleague, the National Security Advisor Doval, met recently with Wang Yi that generated pretty positive signals from both sides. At the same time, it's not much of a secret that India, shall we say, has a China problem. And so I wonder if you would give us some sense of what you see the prospects are for progress in the Sino-Indian relationship.
We have a difficult history with China. A history which included a conflict in 1962. It took us 14 years thereafter to send back to ambassadors. And it took another 12 years after that really to come to some kind of modus vivendi. And that happened in 1988. And the basis of that was that we would develop a relationship ensuring that there is peace and tranquility on the border and on the border areas, because the border is not agreed to. The entire border, which is about 3,500 kilometers, is disputed. And so you make sure the border is peaceful so that, other parts of the relationship can move. Now, to make sure the border was peaceful, you had a series of agreements in 93, in 96, in 2005, 2006, 2012. So each one of these agreements went into greater and greater detail on how to ensure that the border remained peaceful and stable. Now, the problem was in 2020, despite these very explicit agreements, we saw that the Chinese, we were all in the middle of COVID at that time, if you remember, moved large number of forces in violation of these agreements to the line of actual control. And once troops, and we responded in kind, and once troops were deployed very close up, which is very dangerous, it was likely a mishap would happen, and it did happen. So there was a clash, and a number of troops died on either side, and that has since, in a sense, overshadowed the relationship. So until we are able to restore peace and tranquility on the border and ensure that the agreements which we have signed up to are adhered, it's obviously difficult to carry on with the rest of the relationship. So what has been the focus for the last 4 years is to, in the first instance, at least disengage the troops, which means that they go back to the to the military bases from which they traditionally operate, because right now both sides have troops who are deployed forward. And when I said 75% of it has been sorted out, I was asked in a way to quantify it, to give a sense. It's only of the disengagement. So that's one part of the problem. And the main issue right now is the patrolling. How do we, both of us, I would say, patrol up to the line of actual control. And right now the patrolling arrangements after 2020 have been disturbed. So we've been able to sort out much of the disengagement, the friction points, but some of the patrolling issues need to be resolved. But once we deal with the disengagement, there is the larger issue, which is both of us have brought very large number of troops up to the border. So there is what we call the de-escalation issue. Then there is the next step is really how do you deal with the rest of the relationship, because right now the relationship is very significantly disturbed. That said, there are other issues that we need to look at. I mean, you have two countries who are neighbors, who are unique in the sense that they are the only two countries with over 1 billion people, and who are both rising in the global order, and who often have overlapping peripheries as well, other than the fact that they have a common border. So it's very
Brahmaputra.
so it's really a very complicated issue. I think in the global, if you look today in global politics, the parallel rises of India and China, I would say, present a very, very unique problem.
સબસ્ક્રાઇબ કરો ગુજરાતી મિડડે. બેલ આઇકોન પર ક્લિક કરીને મેળવો તમામ વિડીયોના ડાયરેક્ટ નોટિફિકેશન.